Hello, everyone watching on your computer screen, your TV screen, your phone. This is Southeast Iowa Union's Prep Sports Plus, and this is your special winter, not really preview, but more like a winter look ahead, little winter sports hype up show. Right, Hunter? Is that what you'd call this show?
I think we could call it a hype up show.
Will you call it a primer? People say primer if you don't actually know anything. Yeah, use the word primer. Yeah, call it the winter sports primer. That's what you say when you don't really know anything. It's like, yeah, I got something baseline knowledge, so here's a primer. And no, wait, you can't get primer at Fairway. Either way, who are we presented by, as usual, Hunter?
Yeah, we're presented by same thing we were presented by last week and the week before that. The week before that, Fairway Food Stores.
Thank you, Fairway, for sticking with us through thick and thin. It's been a lot of what's bad, thick or thin? When they say thick and thin, through thick and thin?
Through thick and thin.
Yeah, which one's supposed to be bad?
I think is thick good? I don't know. Because thick means strong? I don't know. Or
yeah, that's true. You could. Or it could be like, what if you're trying to...
like thick is tougher. It's tough. It's
tough. Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm going to have to look that up. Me neither. I don't know what thick and thin even really means.
What does thick and thin mean?
Yeah. Ask Alexa if you've got her over there. We're going to talk a little basketball, a little wrestling, a little bit of bowling. For what we know, it's early on, Hunter. We haven't seen a lot of winter sports, obviously, because there hasn't been any real games yet. I guess I saw Winfield, Mount Union, and Mount Pleasant girls basketball at the Mount Pleasant Jamboree the other night. They're playing against each other. I guess I could read off the final score on that because I did take stats just for funsies. That'll be in your Thursday paper, everybody. I was just going through pictures before we started this show. This is just a half. It's a jamboree. Everyone kind of gets to play, so it's, just kind of getting their feet under them. But Mount Pleasant 19, Winfield Mount Union 14 after the half. It was actually 14-3 Mount Pleasant after the first quarter. Tori Wilson led Mount Pleasant with 8 points. It was all unofficial because this doesn't go down as any stats. Kinley White and Peyton Insminger 4 apiece. And Winfield Mount Union's freshman, the new Buffington on the block, had 10, and Madison Kellogg had 4. So, Hunter, I got to see the little girls' basketball.
Yeah, it's coming up quick. Obviously, their practice started last week. So, here next week, going to be pretty much in the full swing of girls' basketball. I think the boys will begin practice, I think, this next week. Or actually, they might have been started like the end of this week. But then, obviously, got to get through state football for those teams that are still competing there. But basically, next week, I think season will be in full swing, at least coming in practices and early season games for the girls, because we know that they're kind of a week ahead of the boys in that regard.
Yeah, and they'll have games. By the way, Kinley Buffington was the name I was searching my brain for. I was going through the entire family. I remember, they say that you want to play the teams that went to state football right away because they won't know how to play basketball yet.
Yeah. You think about it, last year, Winfield and Mount Union was kind of like that because, they were just so good as a team that it didn't really matter. But I know Cam Buffington was out for a little bit from that ankle injury he had in state and football. So, but didn't really kind of affect him in the early season any.
Yeah, because they were basically all playing like hurt because of football. But Winfield also got exceptionally hurt during the playoffs last year of football. Like half their team. Right. I in my brain, I remember going to a basketball practice back when Sheraton was actually we were good. Not me, but the team was good. And I remember sitting there and watching the basketball practice because we couldn't practice yet. Because football players couldn't practice yet. Like I think it was maybe before we got our butts kicked in the next round. But it was funny because it was like a practice where only like 2 or 3 guys could actually play. Let's see here. So let's just go through what we're excited about. We'll start with the Southeast Conference in basketball. Now, Hunter and I have to rack our brains to remember a lot of the stuff, but we've been doing previews and stuff. We off air, we were talking about the Southeast Conference girls because I was telling you about this Mount Pleasant game. I believe that Keokuk should probably be the favorite again. What do you think, Mr. Hunter?
Yeah, I think they probably are the favorite again. Just looking at who's back for them. I mean, obviously, I mentioned that Kendra Boatwright, I believe, is her.
Yeah, Boatwright.
But she was kind of like, I think she was the leading scorer in the conference last year, and she's back for them. So, and they just have some, a good amount of pieces around them. I think looking at other teams that could kind of, compete with them. Just looking at who's back and who kind of performed well. Obviously, Burlington has Miley Stifle is probably actually the leading point scorer back for Burlington, and their team's going to be pretty solid again too. So I would say them along with Washington. But go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say I saw Burlington because they played right before the WMU Mount Pleasant game, and Stifle was pretty much scoring it well. She scored 21 points a game last year.
Yeah, and Miley Stifle is absolutely deadly from outside. So I think looking at it, I mean, Keokuk loses some pieces definitely, but they bring back some great players. And as I mentioned, Burlington. And then also Washington. Look out for Washington too, because Washington returns a lot, and obviously, who got injured?
They have Washington has one of the top. They're the third leading scorer coming back. Adeline
Long got injured last season for Washington, season-ending injury. She will. I'm pretty sure she's going to be back in time for basketball season, and they return pretty much everybody but a couple. And so, kind of look out for I would say those three teams are kind of based on returners and statistical leaders. And obviously, you saw Mount Pleasant, who add some post play as well as some good guard play along with people they return, the girls they return. So. I think it's going to be a lot tighter race for the top of the conference this season. Last couple of years it's been pretty much Keokuk and then everybody else. Well, I think this time it's going to be a little closer race.
By the last couple of years, you mean like the last 500 years?
Yeah, I was just saying a couple.
Yeah, looking back at last year's girls basketball standings, Keokuk went 10-0. Fort Madison was second at 7-3. So there's Keokuk, and then there was everybody else could kind of fight with each other a little bit. Fort Madison was 7-3. Burlington got third at 6-4, and then Washington was fourth at 5-5. I believe Washington maybe split with Burlington once, so that'll be what we kind of look out for is whether Washington can get up at least where they can be beating Burlington and Fort Madison, who will still be pretty good this year, to challenge for that top spot or two in the SEC. And then Mount Pleasant and Fairfield lost every game against everybody else, and Mount Pleasant beat Fairfield. And actually, probably our two closest games of the entire year last year were Mount Pleasant girls against Fairfield girls.
Yeah, and they were great games too. They
were. You were at the one in Fairfield, I think. I know I was at the one in Mount Pleasant because that was a buzzer beater.
And it went down to the wire in Fairfield too.
Yeah. So so. Out of the top five scorers from last year, there are two that graduated. One, of course, is Savannah Hollander from Fairfield. She scored 16 a game. She was the third leading scorer in the conference last year. So obviously Fairfield has a lot to, replace with her. And then McKenna Gilbers of Keokuk was their second leading scorer last year, fifth leading in the SEC. So three players are projected to return this year. That includes Adeline Long, and I don't know 100% if she's going to play right off the bat or not. She hasn't played volleyball, so it's kind of hard to figure out how her.
Yeah, and I was going to say I was saying Boatwright. It's actually Kendra Boatman from Keokuk. That's who was returning. And I didn't even realize she's going to be a junior. I thought that she was going to be a senior this year. And she's only a junior. So, so is Miley Stifle too. So you got, them two along with Adeline Long, who are both entering their junior season. So I think the other conference is going to be in pretty good hands from a scoring standpoint. Looking at that.
By the way, Keokuk, I didn't make it for Keokuk was in an earlier game in the Jamboree. I don't remember who they played, maybe Central Lee. Either way, they won like 30-4 or something like that. And they're a little so they they flexed their muscles early. And by the way, just going through a couple more because I have them on me. Also, Burlington's Kylie Hill was the leading rebounder last year. She'll be back. Actually, the top 4 leading rebounders will be back. 2 from
Two
Burlington.
of those from Burlington.
Yeah, 2 from Burlington, 1 from Fort Massillon, 1 from Keokuk, and then Hollander was 5th. So she's gone from. So we don't have anybody in the top 5 assists, and then our only returner in the top 5 for that was rebounds. Our Adeline Long was 4th in assists last year, and Hollander was 3rd. So she's gone from all those lists. But so we got a little bit coming back. We'll see. Now on the boys' side, the boys' side was a huge battle last year.
Yeah.
I don't know. I remember which of us were at the bigger games towards the end. Mount Pleasant did end up winning the conference for the second year in a row. They did it at 8-2, so they did lose 2 conference games. Beat Keokuk and Fort Madison by a game. I was there. Keokuk beat Mount Pleasant in the tournament. Keokuk on the boys' side returns a good amount of talent, and I would probably give them the edge over everyone coming into this year as well.
Yeah, Keokuk, you said?
Yeah, Keokuk.
Yeah. I think from my perspective, I'm going to go ahead and out on a limb and probably say it's going to be Keokuk and Washington battling for the top spot. I mean, Washington really only loses basically 1 starter. From last year. And then you look at Keokuk, obviously they have Jackson Clark, 6'8". Like, I'm pretty sure he's getting recruited by like Iowa State or something like that.
Yeah.
At least I heard that. That's what I've heard before, but I don't know. Or I think it was Iowa or Iowa State.
I think Iowa went to watch him play. Either way, he out of the top 5 scorers from last year, he is the only returner. I remember Mount Pleasant's Christian Stacy was 4th leading as a freshman, but he's a Waco kid this year. We'll talk about the super conference after this. So scoring wise, only 1 of the top 5, and he scored 20 points a game. So.
And Clark's also the top rebounder. Out of the top 3, he's the only returner. We have Luke Consul coming back. That's basically our only returning rebounder in the top 5 for Fairfield there. But assist wise as well, we got. Hope you have Riley Perkins as a senior in this one, but he's actually a junior. You put 12.
What? Is that the SEC thing?
I'll go ahead and update on it.
Thanks. Yeah, go ahead and italicize him, because I also didn't italicize him because I italicized the returner.
Got it. He's our Riley Perkins from Fairfield's our only returning assister there. As you mentioned, kind of looking at the teams. Keokuk returns a lot. I believe they only lose maybe 1 or 2 starters from last year, and Clark obviously was kind of the how they wanted to run the offense through him. Only a junior, so it's kind of scary for the rest of the conference there. But Washington, as I mentioned, returns a lot, pretty much every starter, and they have a great team as well. Obviously, Mount Pleasant loses leading scorer Peyton Hagens, and then. We mentioned Christian Stacy being gone when went to Waco, and then Nate Stroud, leading rebounder for the Panthers, gone as well. So for the Panthers, they're kind of it's gonna looking like a bit of a rebuild from that standpoint. Just looking, losing Hagens, who's kind of been the go-to scorer the last couple of years. But if there's one thing for certain, Fairfield actually returns quite a bit as well with Perkins and. Luke Collins will kind of be in their main 2 leading scorer, obviously. They did lose. What am I trying to think of?
They lost Sam Wheaton. Fairfield did.
Yeah, they lost Sam Wheaton, who was kind of a big part of their offense as well. But on both sides of the ball, kind of a big part of the way they want to play. But I think one thing's for certain is in the SEC, it always seems to be a close game, because I was at games last year where Fairfield finished without a Southeast Conference win, but they gave both Keokuk and Washington quite the battle.
They did. They gave
the I was at in Fairfield. Yeah, so I mean, really, I think it can go either way. I would just say that Keokuk's probably the favorite coming out, just because how they performed last year and what they have returning, and then Washington close behind, and then after that, Fort Madison's a solid team. Mount Pleasant's going to be a solid. I think across the board, it's pretty solid teams throughout. So
yeah, Burlington's always going to be good. Yeah. They should be competing. between our three teams, so Fairfield and Washington, other than a couple kids, they'll look like the exact same teams, and Mount Pleasant will be a completely new team.
Yeah.
Because I think they lost like their top like 6-ish scorers. So the good news for Mount Pleasant is I got there early for a few games last year, and for each team, and I remember Mount Pleasant's JV team winning by like 1 million points. So so we'll see if they can. Yeah, that they're the biggest question. Mount Pleasant is. Fairfield and Washington should obviously be better because you bring so much back. And then, I'm really curious to see is Keokuk going to be so good this year? Because they did lose a couple seniors. Keokuk did. But they bring back guard Horde. They bring back a guard and one of the best guards and one of the best posts from last year. I'm wondering, is Keokuk just going to run through everyone, or is somebody going to be able to?
I would find it hard to say that they're going to run through everybody, but.
Mm-hmm. Washington, I think the second time they played Keokuk, I covered Washington Keokuk the first game last year, and it was a bad one for the Demons. And I think the second time they faced him, they played him a lot closer. So we'll see. We'll see. And then we'll go to we talked a little bit about Super Conference North is the conference where most of our teams reside.
Yeah.
For the Southeast Iowa Union these days. Looking back here, because I was looking at the girls' standings from last year. The Super Conference is very hard to predict. Period.
On both sides,
teams, on both sides. It really is. We're going to learn a lot in the next few weeks here. Going forward, let's see who won the North last year. Lone Tree. I did see them play against. They played against Burlington at the Jamboree, so I got to see them a little bit. They look pretty good. They won last year 14-2. Columbus was right behind them.
And Columbus should be.
Yeah, that's right. Columbus did beat Lone Tree. Columbus should be able to
beat them as well.
Yes. And Highland, obviously, Sarah Burton was one of the best players in the league last year, but Highland volleyball, lost some good players too, and they actually got a little better. So we'll see if basketball. But so Columbus should be good enough to compete for the championship. I think that Hillcrest Academy girls have two of the best players. Period. I think Waco should be a little better. They lose a little bit, but I remember Graber last year as a freshman started to really come on. So I assume that she's gonna be one of the top players. I thought Winfield Mount Union looked really good the other night, given that they had like everyone back plus a couple of returners. I mean, so one player that's back for Winfield basketball is Josie Nelson, who was part of their state team 2 years ago and then wrestled last year. And now she was back there for them. So they've got, and as I said, Kinley Buffington, their freshman, looked really, really strong. So I was impressed by Winfield, basically adding two pieces to last year's team. And then just like scrolling through here, Pekin has to be one that you'd think about this year. Glosser, Hadley, they had, didn't you see, you saw a couple, like a huge Pekin game last year, didn't you?
I saw a buzzer beater by Anna Hadley to, I can't remember who they were playing. I think they might have been playing the Wise Muscatine, maybe.
Maybe. Last year Columbus was second, Highland was third, Waco fourth, Pekin fifth. Hillcrest and Winfield Mount Union were at the bottom of the conference, but they both won games. There wasn't any like winless stuff going on. So yeah, that's basically just a crapshoot the entire conference, in my opinion.
Yeah, that is the girls' division is really hard to. It's gonna be really hard to predict, as well as the boys, though.
Yeah,
as well as the
boys. So right now I'm just looking at Lone Tree girls because that's a team that we don't cover, and trying to remember. No, they pretty much bring everyone back. They bring their top 5 back. So I guess they'd be the favorites. They won last year. This will be a crazy year in North Division girls basketball. So the boys, last year was our Winfield Mount Union dream season. Went all the way to state, went undefeated in the conference, and that's what they lost five-ish huge players from that team. So that obviously creates a vacuum for not only at Winfield, like new players will step up, but then also I think that puts the lead in the North back up for grabs.
Yeah. And I'd say, looking at, I mean, Waco was, right behind Winfield, and obviously, both of Waco's conference, they only had 2 conference losses. Both came against, Winfield, and obviously, the first game I think was like a 15-point game, and I think it got closer, maybe if I remember right. Maybe it didn't. In the second loss, I can't remember exactly, but looking at looking who's back. I mean, obviously, a lot of senior talent when it came to scoring last year, but I'd say Hillcrest Academy be on the lookout for, because they return Seth Hours and a lot of other pieces to their squad, and they lost 5 games last year. Both they lost to Winfield and Waco both twice, and I believe they lost to Pekin. And I think you should watch out for Pekin too, because Pekin returns a lot. I think the only one that they lost was Jaden Wolver, which was a big rebounder for them.
They lost Dahlstrom too, Sven Dahlstrom.
Dahlstrom too. But
they lost their top 2 scorers and then bring back everyone below them, basically.
Yeah. I mean, both of the Adams, played a lot for them. Were good players for them. So I think Pekin can make a little jump there as well. Overall, I think it's kind of up for grabs again, because Winfield's going to have a new look. Obviously, Jake Edwards is kind of the main returner, and then his brother will be a big player for them too. But Waco's going to be kind of a different look. Obviously, a couple players that they had at the guard position last year will be big for the Warriors there. Adding Christian Stacy is going to help as well.
Yes, and I think I talked to him. I think because of transfer style, I think he said he starts playing sometime in January, maybe like early January. But he should make an instant impact, because he was an all SEC player last year. Obviously, you'd think that would translate pretty good to Waco.
So yeah, I don't think there's a clear, concise who's going to take it this year. I think Winfield, Mount Union, Waco, Hillcrest Academy, Pekin. Louisa Muscatine was 4th there. Obviously, they had a Ty Northrup, who was a fantastic scorer for them last year. We don't cover them, so I'm not completely familiar with who comes back for them. But looking at our teams that are in the top 5 there, Winfield, Waco, Hillcrest Academy, Pekin, I think all those teams could make a leap. At least going to be competing pretty well for the conference. They're obviously Columbus and Highland finished the bottom 2 spots in the conference. Obviously, they don't return a lot. Obviously, the Wild, well, they do return a lot, but the Wildcats lose their leading scorer in Tim Hills Carrier, averaged 18 points a game, and Highland's still kind of in that.
Highland also loses their top scorer, Nicholas Oriano. So both those teams lose their top guy, but then bring back guys below.
But long story short, I believe that it's going to be it's kind of a crapshoot of who's going to take the top, who's going to reign supreme at the top in this one. It's kind of another tough. It's kind of another tough pick of who you think is going to come out on top.
I'd say that whoever wins is not going to go undefeated this year. That's my hot take, and double that hot take. I'll put that on the girls too. Whoever wins isn't going undefeated in the North.
I agree.
It's exciting when we don't know, because there are some years we look at from last year and we look at their returners and we're like, oh, obviously, no one's going to touch these guys this year. Right. So it's exciting that it's fun. And then our real quick, our smaller with Super Conference South is stacked as usual.
Yes, he is absolutely stacked.
Van Buren County and New London are our 2 teams in the Super South. They finished. Let me scroll down here. Second to last, New London did. They went 2-12, and then Van Buren County didn't win any in the South last year, so they'll both be looking to rise up. They were pretty young. New London was really, really young.
Yeah.
So we'll see if they can take a big step.
The thing about the South Division boys side is that probably going to be 3 ranked teams, and there's probably going to be 3 ranked teams to start the season in that conference. So the West Burlington, who was a state quarterfinalist last year, returns. They lose, a couple pieces. Biggest one probably being Brady Martin, all-state guard for them. But, they do bring back Mason Watkins, who's an all-state guard and probably one of the best scorers in the conference. So I'm assuming that West Burlington has the potential to be ranked with him back. Notre Dame's going to be really good. Gave West Burlington incredible games last year. Gave Winfield Mount Union a crazy game. I know they lose a little bit, but I'm pretty sure they bring back probably like 90% of their roster. And then Holy Trinity Catholic, who gave Winfield Mount Union another great game, brings back the conference's leading scorer points per game, Luke Hellig there. So another all-state player. A lot of all-state players on those three teams. So I would say that the South Division is going to be another kind of up for grabs because I think out of those three teams, anybody can win it. And Mediapolis was pretty good. I mean, they beat Holy Trinity once last year as well. And if Winfield, looking at the sub-state bracket last year, obviously Winfield made state and West Burlington made state, and then Winfield beat both Notre Dame and Holy Trinity to get to state. Yeah, I think any three of those teams could have probably went to state. Obviously, it came down to 1-2 possessions in each of those games that Winfield. So, another me just rambling on, but I think it's going to be a very competitive South, at least at the top.
Yeah, it is, and hopefully, as I said, we got a lot of returners there. Hopefully, they'll be able to climb into some games with those big dogs. And then on the girls' side, it's very similar, where Van Buren won 4 games last year in conference play, and then New London won 1 game. I think were you there when they beat West Burlington? I remember New London beat West Burlington as their only win in the conference.
I think I was at the one they lost. I think I was at the one.
Oh, we know how to pick them. And Van Buren County loses their top scorer, Ivy Davidson, from last year. And New London had a good amount of seniors last year. Let me make sure here. They lose. Sophie Mott was their second, but Miley Miller coming back. She was their top scorer last year. So we'll see if they can takes in the Super South. It takes a lot of climbing to get back up when you're going against ranked teams.
And on the girls' side, the teams were stacked last year. Well, it's kind of like that top. It was like top 4 were all competing with each other in Holy Trinity, Danville, Mediapolis, and Burlington. And I know Holy Trinity lost quite a bit, but I think Mediapolis will still be solid again. And I think West Burlington loses their leading scorer. Actually, all 3 of Holy Trinity, Notre Dame lose their leading scorers, but Mediapolis brings back their leading scorer. So I think it's going to be another. I think it'll be a good conference battle this season.
Yeah, I agree.
It's tough to choose until we get into the thick of it,
It is. Once we see a week of games, we'll be able to kind of know a little bit more. And then our oddball teams are 3 schools that are not in conference with anybody else: Mid Prairie, Keota, and Cardinal. I'd say of those teams, Mid Prairie was 500 or better in boys and girls last year. So they were good enough to compete in the River Valley. The big team from those 6 would be the Keota boys, who didn't lose the game until Hunter went to their sub-state final game. And they bring back, I think, one of their top 8, Billy Kindred. So we'll see if they can keep moving. Keota so a couple of teams like Keota and Mount Pleasant are kind of remind me of each other because they bring back very little from last year. But both of those schools, it's been so long since they've been bad at basketball, you just assume that they're gonna be good again until you see them be bad.
They had some good players coming in for them last season.
Kindred averaged a double-double, I think.
Yeah, I think they're going to be still pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. Keota will always be good in my opinion.
I think the Mid Prairie boys have a really good shot to make some noise this season. Obviously, I think they were kind of raw last year, but
Agreed.
I think they could be. You watched them, I think, beat Washington, which is a tough place to go and win a game, and they got to win there. So I think they have the potential to be a pretty good team as well.
Yeah, Mid Prairie will be good. I was looking through Cardinal. I know the girls didn't win any in conference last year. I believe the boys also did not win any in conference last year for Cardinal. So they've had a tough time with SEC, South Central Conference basketball. See if they can
tough teams over there.
Start. Yeah, there are some tough teams there. So, and they lose. The girls lose their leading scorer, Emma Becker, and the boys had a lot of seniors on their team too. So that's pretty much where we stand basketball wise. Quickly running through other stuff. Wrestling, we have a few big returners. Just off the top of my head, Fairfield had two Saturday wrestlers last year, both coming back. Kale McCabe was second, and Kason Miller was fourth or sixth.
I think it's fourth.
Fourth? Yeah, I think fourth. I remember talking to them both. So Fairfield will have some really high-end wrestlers this year. Loudon Housingate from Waco got second last year. I remember in the championships we had three. The other was Russell Coyle from Columbus. He's graduated, but for the most part, a lot of the same faces for wrestling last year will be back.
Columbus's other one was Nelson, right? Nelson made it.
Yeah, pretty far.
I think he was the only other.
Now we're just throwing out. Yeah,
I can't remember his first name off the top of my head.
And then also, Gage Samo from Waco was also a Saturday finalist. I think he got eighth, maybe. So boys wrestling, we'll be back at Wells Fargo, or is it going to be the Casey Center by the time that wrestling starts?
I'm not sure.
Will it be the first state event in the Casey Center?
Imagine that.
I don't know what it's going to be called. I have to go back and read that story to remember when it's going to officially be switched. Is it 2025?
I don't know.
We're going to have to look that up.
Casey Center is the new name for the Wells Fargo Arena in Des Moines beginning on July 1st, 2025.
Oh, okay, so it'll still be the Wells Fargo Arena for state wrestling. One last time at the Well.
Yep.
And then bowling, we had a handful. The only bowler I can think of that is returning is Bethany Drury of Mount Pleasant, because they had three girls last year. Two were seniors, and then Washington had one boy, Caleb Zaglaski, but he was a senior. So from our SEC schools, anyway, we got one coming back for bowling. So those are some names to look for this year, winter sports fans. I know it's a little convoluted, but I'm excited. We're going to some scrimmages this week. Fairfield and Mount Pleasant both have meet the players tomorrow night. I think before we started the show, I was looking up to remember who Washington scrimmages against on Friday. And they scrimmage against Wapello girls basketball scrimmage at 7:00 on Friday. So we're going to be able to learn a few things, Hunter.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. Going to kind of get an idea of how, at least those two teams are going to be, what they're going to be looking like here in the early season.
For sure. And then after we come back from our commercial, our fans will be learning something, because we're going to learn what Hunter and I know about football, because we're going to revisit our semifinal picks from last week's state semifinals, look ahead to the finals. So you look ahead to these commercials, and we'll be back.
Introducing Hy-Vee Market Grill, where every meal is a delight. Start your day with our mouthwatering breakfast options and savor flavorful lunches with friends and family. Cap off your day with our delectable dinners. Hy-Vee Market Grill, where every moment is delicious.
The Connie and Amanda team is dedicated to giving back to our community by actively engaging with our clients, businesses, and the public. When it comes to helping you find your next home, investment, or commercial space, the Connie and Amanda team is here for you.
Washington County Hospital and Clinics, providing quality health care that puts you first. Whether during a hospital stay, seeing a primary care provider for wellness exams or sick visits, minor surgery to a total joint replacement, or recovering from an injury, we're here when you need us.
More than you expect for your health care. Washington County Hospital and Clinics.
Attention Hy-Vee shoppers, introducing Hy-Vee Perks, your ticket to exclusive savings and rewards. Access exclusive perks, prices, earn gas discounts, and unlock special deals. All this for free. Join Hy-Vee Perks today and start saving.
At Seafirst Credit Union, we're all about making connections, like how we connect you to that dream vacation with a savings account designed to help get you on the flight there. Connect with Seafirst today and see why together is better.
Celebrate the season at the Mount Pleasant Festival of Lights with over 180 dazzling light displays. It's the perfect holiday tradition for families, friends, and loved ones. Experience the magic from the comfort of your car, and on select nights, bring the kids to meet Santa himself. Don't miss this enchanting event that brings holiday spirit to life. For directions, dates, times, and ticket info, head to oldthreshers.com. The Mount Pleasant Festival of Lights, where holiday magic comes to life.
In the heart of rural Iowa, where community matters most, the connections we make are made to last. Meet KCTC, your hometown internet, phone, and TV provider. At KCTC, we're not just about technology, we're about people. Our dedicated team are your neighbors, committed to bringing you top-tier services right where you live. We believe in giving back to the community that raised us. Experience the power of a real connection with KCTC. Join us in building a stronger, more connected Southeast Iowa.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Southeast Iowa Union Sports Prep Sports Plus, presented by Fairway Food Stores. Are you guys stopping the spread of germs? Remember this from a few years ago? There's still germs out there, but none on this podcast. We are germ-free, virus-free, and we're ready to roll into our recap of we're midway through the state football championships. Semifinals are done. We made picks for everything last week. We're going to revisit to see how they're doing. Hunter's got the recap up. I will. Okay, so here we go. Ready for this? In Class 5A, last week, Hunter and I picked the 5A. I said Southeast Polk over Dowling Catholic in the championship. Hunter said Dowling Catholic over Southeast Polk. Hunter, who's going to be in the championship?
Well, we both have one team right that's in the championship. In Class 5A, Southeast Polk, who I mentioned last week, was the only team across the state that make the semifinals with over 2 losses, upsets top-seeded Iowa City Liberty 38-35. In that game, the Lightning outscored the Rams 14-0 in the first quarter, led 21-14 at the half, but Southeast Polk went on to outscore them 24-14 in the second half. So Southeast Polk will be matching up with, wait for it, another Des Moines area school, Valley, for the state title. The Tigers defeat Dowling Catholic 28-21 in the semifinal round after a scoreless opening quarter. The Maroons took a 14-7 lead into the half, but after it being tied 21-21, after 3, the Tigers scored 7 more in the fourth to take it. So both have Southeast Polk.
I watched the end of that game. Dowling Catholic threw a ball to the end zone. They're about to score to go up 7, and a kid from Valley picked it at the 1 and brought it all the way back to the opposite 1. That's how Valley beat them.
I think crazy. That was probably. I think I remember seeing a video of that. I think that's that kid that's like one of the top safeties in the country.
He should be, because that was a great.
The number 7. Do you remember his number 7?
No, I don't remember what number he was.
Okay. Valley has a kid that's like getting looked at like big D1 schools.
Nice.
But anyway, we both have one school in.
What happened?
I say we both have the one school in, but you have a chance to pick it right for the state championship.
I'm biased towards Southeast Polk because when you drive to Des Moines from our area and you get to Southeast Polk, you're like, oh, I'm finally almost here. Battery might die soon. Hey, we're playing with fire here.
Oh yeah.
4A, Andy picked Lewis Central over North Polk. Hunter picked North Polk over Lewis Central.
Yeah. In 4A, both the top seeds dominated. Tough pick for Andy here. In that first game with North Polk against North Scott, it was a one-score game at half, 14-7, but North Polk puts up 21 points in the third to pull away. So North Polk's in the final, and they will be taking on the closest team to us, probably, Pella.
Oh, yeah.
Pella Downs perennial powerhouse Lewis Central, 28-16. The Dutch held a 14-3 advantage after 2 quarters, with the Titans pulled within 4 after the third, 14-10. However, Pella scores twice in the fourth to extend its lead and get into the championship. So I'm still alive in Class 4.
You are. You got a shot. You got a shot with North Polk. Yeah, it's funny. I watched most of these games and I just totally forget what happened. And so I'm hanging on your every word. Class 3A, Andy had Humboldt over Wahlert Catholic, and Hunter had Wahlert Catholic over Humboldt. I forgot that we kept doing this.
Yep. In class, fun fact for you, legendary tight end Dallas Clark coaches at Humboldt. But Humboldt's the top seed. They keep their season alive after a 28-25 comeback win over Mount Vernon, team we know well.
Oh yeah.
From the season, but the Mustangs jumped out to an 11-0 lead through the first quarter. I was kind of surprised. I thought Humboldt was kind of run away with it, but maybe it's just because Mount Vernon. I guess besides that Solon game they played this season, didn't really have a close contest outside of that. But led 11-0 after the first quarter. The Wildcats answered back though with 14 unanswered in second to make it 14-11 at the half. After that, they would never lose it. The Mustangs did win the scoring battle in the fourth, 14-7, but Humboldt gets into the final. And then on the other half of that bracket, Wahlert Catholic kept its undefeated season alive with a win over Sergeant Bluff Lutton. The Golden Eagles held a 10-3 lead at the half and a 17-10 advantage after 3. The Warriors ended up scoring 6 unanswered in the fourth, but couldn't tie it to take the lead. So Wahlert Catholic's into the final. We've got our 2 teams are in, and well, one of us is going to win.
Yeah, we got a shot for a point there. Class 2A, Andy had Van Meter over PCM. Hunter had Van Meter over PCM.
Mm-hmm. In Class 2A, West Lyon stays unbeaten with a dominating win over Van Meter, 49-24. Van Meter actually led West Lyon 10-7 after 1, but the Wildcats dominated the final 3 quarters. West Lyon scored 14 points in each of those quarters, while giving up just 14 total the rest of that game there. So, and then the Wildcats, surprising score to me here. The Wildcats will take on Spirit Lake. Spirit Lake put up an offensive, basically onslaught against PCM. The Indians scored 21 answered in the first quarter. PCM followed with 21 points of its own, but Spirit Lake added another 21 itself to make it 42-21 at half. The Indians went on to outscore Mount Vernon 14-7 in the second half. So Spirit Lake downs PCM pretty handedly there.
We know nothing about 2A football, Hunter.
Yeah.
We know nothing about it. Class 1A, Andy picked Grundy Center over Dike New Hartford, and Hunter picked Grundy Center over Dike New Hartford.
Well, I can tell you one thing. We know some 1A football.
Yeah.
In Class 1A, Grundy Center put together a lopsided victory over Wilton. Spartans down the Beavers 42-7. It was a 7-0 ball game after 1, but the Spartans outscored the Beavers 21-7 in the second to extend it to 28-7 at the half. Ended up outscoring Wilton 14-0 in the second half. And the Spartans will rematch this season of these 2 teams played in the first game of the season. They will take on Dike New Hartford, who's 11-1. And guess what? The Wolverines' only loss, who's it to? The Spartans. Dyke New Hartford holds on against Hinton in its semifinal bout. The Wolverines led 14-6 after one. After a scoreless third, Hinton edged Dyke New Hartford in the fourth, but it wasn't enough as these two teams will rematch, and I believe it was I think it was like a 21-7 game when they played the first game of the season, or 27-1 or 21-7, something along those lines. But anyway, Dyke New Hartford's only loss is Grundy Center, so a little chance for some revenge with them there.
And they could enact some revenge on us for our picks. Class A. Whoops, no, I don't want to block Union Sports page. I hit the wrong button. I almost blocked us from my personal. Class A, Andy had St. Ansgar over West Hancock. Hunter had St. Ansgar over West Hancock.
Well, we picked one team right to be in the final, the championship, but West Hancock is back in the Class A championship after a 50-35 victory over Madrid. The Eagles jumped out to a 22-0 lead after one and a 36-7 lead at the half. Madrid did outscore West Hancock 28-14 in the second half, but the deficit was too great to overcome. And West Hancock will take on Tri-Center in the title game. Tri-Center finished strong against a tough St. Ansgar squad. The Trojans were down after one quarter 8-7, but added 6 of their total in the second to make it 13-8. Take a 13-8 advantage in the halftime. But the second half was pretty much all Tri-Center. They scored 15 in the third and 14 in the fourth while holding the Saints to just 6. So Tri-Center versus West Hancock for the title.
All right, so we don't have a chance of actually winning that one. And Class 8 player, Andy had Lennox over Rims and St. Mary's. Hunter had Rims and St. Mary's over Lennox.
Yep. In Class
Which means
8
we
player,
didn't disagree on any of the semifinals games.
I know. In Class 8 player, Gladbrook Rhinebeck takes down top seed Lennox pretty handedly in this one. It was tied 14-14 after one quarter, but a 15-point second by the Rebels made it 29-14 at the half, and that's all they would need. Lennox cut it to 9 after a 6-0 third quarter, but Gladbrook Rhinebeck scored 14 more in the fourth to punch its ticket to the state championship. Meanwhile, Remsen St. Mary's just edged defending 8-player state champion Bishop Garrigan 22-20 in their semifinal. The Hawks and Bears were tied 8-8 at the half, but Remsen just slips by after outscoring Bishop Garrigan 14-12 in the second half. So, yeah, I can still get the state champion right there, but you're out of it.
We should have learned our lesson because we saw Iowa Valley.
Play Gladbrook.
We saw Iowa Valley. We said, I don't know who's going to be able to stop Iowa Valley. This kid's literally unstoppable. No one can tackle him. They're definitely going to win state. And then Gladbrook beat them by like 20. And then we looked at Gladbrook and said, no, I don't believe you guys. So that was a stupid pick on our part.
But yeah, the 8-player, it's kind of weird how they have it set up, but 8-player Class A, 1A, and 4A state titles we played on Thursday. Yep. Well, so when you're watching this, they're going to be going on. And then 2A, 3A, and 5A will take place on Friday.
I think that the championship games are free because I went to buy the pass like I do with all my sports editor money, and it's like you're only paying for semifinals because the finals are free. So I don't know where the finals are free at. I guess probably on the Sports Network website. So yeah, watch a little football tomorrow while we make our all union football teams. So all right then, that's all we got. Hunter and I. Football geniuses in some classes, football dopes in the others.
Yep. It's tough out here.
Because of the magic of media, people who just read the newspaper and don't watch the show don't know that. They think that we know everything.
Hey, we know a lot, but we didn't say we knew everything.
This show really lets you peek behind the curtains. Anyway, we're about to go peek behind the curtains of the post-game press conference and some lunch. But we will be back next week with a little more knowledge on winter sports because we're actually going to see some teams play. Stick with us. Southeast Iowa Union, Prep Sports Plus.
Yep.
When will we see him, Hunter?
We'll see him next week.
We sure
Peace.
will.
Peace.
Peace up, 8 down.